Have you ever had a best friend? Not just a buddy or a pal, but a real true ride or die. A Jet to your Spike, an Alphonse to your Eldrick, a Pikachu to your Ash. Well, then you know there is nothing quite as special as having someone like that in your corner through all of your misadventures and madcap hijinks. In the annals of anime, there have been few friendships as enduring as that of Lupin and the focus of today's video, Daisuke Jigen. The two have been through thick and thin together. Where there is Lupin, Jigen is always nearby. It can be a lot of fun to have this type of bond and friendship between player characters at a table. So let's take a look at how to build a Jigen-inspired character that you can bring to your table and play with your very own best bud. Jigen was heavily inspired by classic American gangsters, and much of his backstory involves him traveling the world as a hired gun for various crime families until he eventually decided to give it up and become a professional thief instead. These two aspects of Jigen's backstory, as hired strongman and thief, will form the basis of our build today. Jigen is going to focus largely on his dexterity, and he is going to also be pretty feat heavy. So for that reason, he's going to take a custom lineage as his race to get the +2 ASM as well as a feat. For this first feat, he'll take Sharpshooter. This will allow him to make long-range attacks without imposing disadvantage. It also means that his ranged weapon attacks ignore half cover and 3/4 cover. While the Magnum is Jigen's preferred handgun, he has also proved on many occasions to be a master sniper, and these two abilities will really allow that skill to shine, albeit with a crossbow instead of a handgun. It also means that when making a ranged attack, Jigen can take a -5 penalty to his attack, and if it hits, he adds a +10 to the damage. As mentioned earlier, Jigen started out working for various crime families, first in New York, but then in South America, and later Europe. So it kind of works out that he was a fighter before becoming a rogue, and we're going to lean into that for this build. Starting at level 1, Jigen will begin as a fighter and take this all the way up to level 6. For his fighting style, he'll take archery, getting a +2 to his attack rolls, which will help mitigate the -5 penalty he takes from the Sharpshooter feat, essentially reducing it to a -3 penalty. Since statistically, it is almost always worth using that penalty for the added damage, getting buffs like this will be really helpful. He'll also get second wind, allowing him to roll a 1d10 plus his fighter level to regain hit points. Often in the show, after a bunch of henchmen or Zenigata himself show up, Lupin and Jigen find themselves behind a wall or bracing a door, with Jigen complaining how it all went south so fast. I like to think this is when he would take his second wind before the two make a mad dash for it, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid style, like at the river, not the ending in Bolivia. That would be bad. And at level 2, Jigen will get Action Surge, allowing him to take one additional action on his turn once per short rest. Time and time again, we've seen Jigen get off that extra shot, that well-placed bullet that allows the party to evade capture and make a clean break, and Action Surge will help us replicate that sensation. Level 3, we get some really fun goodies, because this is where Jigen chooses his martial archetype and goes with Battle Master. The fun thing about Battle Master is that it will give Jigen a bunch of choices to amplify that master marksman sensation. I chose Disarming Attack because there's just something iconic about a marksman shooting something out of their opponent's hand. Precision attack to again help reduce the -5 penalty to Sharpshooter by adding the superiority dice to his attack roll. And lastly, maneuvering attack, which allows Jigen to spend a superiority dice when he hits on an attack to allow an ally to use their reaction to move up to half of their speed without taking an attack of opportunity. This, for me, is the quintessential I've got your back maneuver. These are the three that I like for both a little flavor and mechanics, but honorable mentions would absolutely include things like distracting strike, goading attack, or trip attack. Jigen has used tactics similar to each of these over the course of the show's many runs, and all of them would work great for this type of build. At 4th level, Jigen will take the crossbow expert feat, allowing him to ignore loading properties, removes disadvantage from being within 5 feet of a hostile creature, and allows him to make a bonus attack with a hand crossbow when he makes an attack with a one-handed weapon. This feat pairs beautifully with Sharpshooter and is a classic for many ranged weapon heavy characters. Then, at 5th level, Jigen gets his extra attack, allowing him to make 2 attack actions and a bonus action, assuming he meets the requirements of Crossbow Expert. By 5th level, he's going to be firing off shots left and right, and with his battle mastery, a lot of those shots will include some pretty fun extras. It's at 6th level that we're gonna jump over, really drive that Jigen flavor home, and take at least 3 levels of Rogue, and more specifically, Assassin. With his first Rogue level, Jigen will get 3 fun features. Expertise to double his proficiency bonus to 2 chosen skill proficiencies. Sneak attack, allowing Jigen to cause an additional 1d6 damage to his attacks when he has advantage on the roll, or when one of his allies is within 5 feet of his target, and that ally is not incapacitated or Jigen does not have disadvantage on the roll. Again, there have been so many moments throughout the course of the show where one of Lupin's schemes rests on a well-timed shot from a lurking Jigen. Sneak attack is exactly that, and will help the party get the drop on their unsuspecting foes. Jigen also gets the super cool Thieves' Cant. We'll be building Lupin out as well, and you best believe he'll have this feature as well. What great caper doesn't have a hidden message that only those in the know can figure out? With a little imagination and creativity, 2 rogues, a Jigen and a Lupin, playing at the same table could find enormous utility in being able to send subtle messages to one another disguised as regular conversation, and then, when the moment is just right, springing their plan into action. At 2nd level, Jigen gets Cunning Action, allowing him to use a bonus action to dash, disengage, or hide. Hiding being super useful to this build. Handy when you think about how often Lupin and Jigen can be found running from henchmen, policemen, big bads, or just Zenigata. At 3rd level, Jigen can choose a roguish archetype, and considering the character's history, Assassin makes sense. He will get proficiency with Disguise and Poisoner kits. I like the Disguise kit because just like Lupin, Jigen uses alter egos and masks to keep from being immediately identified as one of the world's top thieves. Jigen also gets the Assassinate feature from this archetype, allowing him to really get the drop on his targets. He gets advantage on any creature that hasn't yet taken a turn in combat, and any hit against a surprise creature counts as a critical hit. From here, Jigen could go back to being a fighter or stick with being a rogue. Personally, I feel like the latter is more in keeping with the character from the show. Uncanny Dodge at 5th level speaks to the cartoony nature of Jigen and Lupin's antics, and Infiltration Expertise at level 9 is often seen as not being the most useful of skills in a world where things like alter or disguise self spells exist, but being able to adopt a new identity for a heist or caper is a very in-keeping trait for this character. Someone interested in really emulating these characters, I think, could have a lot of fun with this feature. Strategically, a Jigen-based character can approach battle a lot like how he does in the show. With this build, Jigen is well set up to be able to find an advantageous spot using a disguise or stealthily sneaking into position. From there, he should try to hide and gain advantage to get the drop on his opponents. Next, as combat unfolds, he should be using a combination of his feats and superiority dice to support the frontline combatants, just like Jigen does in the show. All in all, if you like to play it real cool, if you like teaming up with your fellow players when making plans, but don't necessarily want to be the one who has to take a rope down into the wizard's fiery pit to retrieve that priceless magical item, then I think Jigen would be a lot of fun to play at your next table.